Hey sis family, it's Andrew here. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I am doing fantastically because I've just got back from a trip to Japan with a bunch of Stitch members, and I've been asked by so many members, Andrew, please tell me what the trip was like. Tell us all about it. So I thought, you know what? Why don't I tell you all about it as one of our community updates, because this is a pretty special event. It was the very first official Stitch trip that we put together. It was a bit of an experiment for me, very small group. We didn't want to overwhelm ourselves, although it was pretty challenging in some respects. I'll tell you a bit about that. But really a bit of a trial to see what's it like when we bring members from all parts of the world together. We had people from the US, Australia, and the UK. And what sort of friendships and what's the experience like? It was honestly, it was beyond what I was even hoping for. It was really fantastic, surprising in so many ways, and really, really cool. I'm going to talk to you about that, but there's a bigger reason, because the other reason I'm really kind of still feeling pretty good is it's, you know, after you have a go on a trip, you start to feel a little bit sad that it's all over, and I definitely felt that. But I'm lucky, I get to go on another trip later on this year, what we're calling the Big Stitch trip. And what we learnt on Japan is a real eye-opener for what you can expect, or what I think we can expect on the Big Stitch trip, but just times 1,000, because there's so many things happening with our local community members in Seattle and Portland and San Francisco and so on, that by combining that with what happened in the Japan trip, I think it's just going to be mind-blowing. So I really want to talk to you about that and ask you to think about coming along, because it's not going to be, it'll probably be the last time we do a Big Stitch trip in the US for some time. We'll probably only do one of them each year. And so this is your chance to come across, or if you're in the US, to come to the West Coast and meet a bunch of members. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let me tell you about what happened in Japan. For those of you who are interested, think of this as postcards from Japan. So some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but the trip that we had put up on Stitch as our very first official Stitch trip. We've got a bunch of members who are going on trips and cruises and so on with each other, and that's fine. But this is one organised by Stitch that I went on, and the opportunity for members to get together in a Stitch-only group was for a walk called the Kumano Kodo in Japan. And here's a picture of one of the famous landmarks in the Kumano Kodo. You're walking through the forest. It's actually one of the two World Heritage listed walks in the world, the other one being the El Camino San Sebastian in Spain and Portugal and France. And it's an ancient walk through the forests as part of a very, very important Buddhist pilgrimage in Japan. And so it's quite a spiritual journey and very different from most other experiences. Now, I'm a bit of a Japan head. I speak Japanese. I have done this walk before, so I thought, you know what, I would love to share the experience with members because it's a very special experience for myself, and I was really hoping that that people would be interested in coming along. We put up this trip on the Stitch website, and myself and 10, I'm going to say lucky members. I was lucky that they came, put it that way. It was just fantastic that we had such interest in the group. We had a lot of interest. Now, this was actually quite a challenging walk, so obviously it's only for people who are really into that sort of thing. But we had 10 people that came along, and as I mentioned, from the US, the UK, and mainly Australia. Japan's a lot closer for us, so pretty much similar time zone too. Now, for a Stitch group event, one thing that people often ask about is like, oh, what's it going to be like if I'm just stuck with people and I don't like them, and I really, I'm used to traveling on my own, I want some time together. And so one of the things that we were really sensitive to was making sure that happened. So on this trip, everyone shared rooms. That's not going to be the case on the Big Stitch trip if people don't want to, but they can if they want. But in this case, people shared rooms, but we rotated it, so there was a lot of mixing up, and it was wonderful to see what that did to the group dynamic, which is great. But we also got a lot of time, both before and after the trip, to do our own thing or to meet up. And so I was in Osaka, met up with some members of the group before the trip started, this is a day beforehand, we went out to an izakaya, had dinner, got to know each other, which was really cool. Other members were traveling on their own. Some we met on the train on the way down to this place called Kitanabe. Here's Robin in the right up the front. Japanese trains are pretty cool. And then me with all of my little ducklings walking along as I was kind of the lead. It was one of those. Japan, if you've never been, is a place that constantly amazes, and this particular walk is really hard to get into. We were right in the middle of sakura season, which is the cherry blossom season, so it was very, very popular. So we were quite lucky to get together. And then before this is the first kind of official night of the trip, and we broke into small groups and went out into different restaurants to have our first, in some people's cases, their first experience of Japan, which is really cool. When we do the Big Stitch trip, it'll be very similar. There'll be very nights when you can go off on your own, smaller groups, and there'll be some big nights together. But this was kind of what we wanted to figure out, what the right mix is of independent travel, doing things on your own, and doing things with others. We headed off on this walk, and as I said, the Kumano Kodo is very famous, and it's a 4-day hike with some pretty tough days, like really mountainous stuff, and it's extraordinarily beautiful in the forest. One of the Japanese traditions that's now pretty popular worldwide is a thing called forest bathing, and walking through the forest and what that does to your sense of serenity and being really introspective. There are all these prayer markers along the way, so we're trying to be thoughtful, and you know, everyone took their own pace, and the natural beauty was really cool. Japan is so beautiful. The cherry blossoms in different areas. We had such a variety of scenery and some really traditional stuff. That's a 300-year-old sakura tree that I ended up having a drink under at one point, and beautiful flowers and everything. The temples were incredible. Like as I said, there's a very important part of Buddhist tradition it's called the Wakayama Peninsula, and we stayed in these tiny little towns in a real variety of accommodation. This place had onsen, which is the hot baths outside on the river as well as inside. It was really cool. Great experience. But the photos I showed you were the natural stuff, which is obviously beautiful. And whenever we choose a place for a trip, obviously you want to go somewhere that's interesting in and of itself. But really what made the trip special, you know, I've done this trip before. It's beautiful all the time. But this trip was mind-blowing. And what made it special were the other members. And so, again, everyone kind of walked at their own pace. I had to walk really fast because I had to start with the people who were doing the longest walk, but then other people might take the bus and so on, and I'd have to get to the hotel at the beginning before everyone else did. But we all got to spend, the great thing about walking is you all get to spend time together at various different times, and everyone kind of mixed up and walked together. It was really cool for me because, as you know, I'm really into social connections and I'm into people getting to know each other and enjoying each other's company, both in large groups but also small. And I really liked seeing as the days kind of wore on, how people started to form those friendships. Really get a sense of achievement from the walk that they were doing and so on, and just start to talk about life in general. You know, these things are like that. Now most trips we do won't be as challenging, and in fact on the Japan walk we gave everyone lots of options for whether you wanted to do the hardcore walking, if you wanted to get the official, be recognised as officially doing the pilgrimage, you had to do every single thing and get your stamp everywhere, and Vivian from New Jersey did that. Some people went, well, actually, no, I really want to be more focused on exploring Japan, and so you could take the bus, and we did a little cultural exploration there. But the people who actually did the whole walk, by the end, you end up at this place called Nachi Falls. So that was really, really great achievement for everyone who'd walked on through. The thing that really, I think, then became the highlight, and I'll remember a lot of these dinners, is we all, at the end of the day, got together and got to experience the culture, but be together, have dinner, great conversations. You can see us all wearing the Japanese yukata, which is the indoor attire when you're in a ryokan, and exploring the wonderful different foods. And you can see as people started to, as the trip wore on, we got to the end, so much laughter, so much fun, so much enjoyment. And I am really pleased. Like, one of my dreams was that at the end of the trip, people would feel like they'd made friends who would be in their life forever. And I know for a fact that some of the members on this trip formed really, really strong bonds. And hopefully they felt the same with me too. I'm looking forward to going and visiting them. Some of them from Sydney, some from all around the world. But really looking forward to seeing them again sooner or later, and that was really, really cool. And some of the things I said about the trip too, I think this is what we're aiming for all the trips. And the reason we do travel is to create this sort of bonds and experience. And some of the things that people said were that, it was an amazing experience, best in their life, all these lifetime bonds and being so lucky. Just its sense of gratitude for the experience, and great laughs, great company and memories. And again, it's really about the experience of how much they got together. One of the best trips of their life. Now, obviously, part of that's Japan, but really, I'm convinced a lot of it's the people. Great, as you say, great group of people. I love this quote about having the choice to walk with a group or head off on your own. It wasn't a holiday; it was an experience that opened our eyes. Came home feeling wonderfully more simply, be a better human because of it. Again, a lot of gratitude, a lot of thanks for such a fantastic experience. And the big one, it really encouraging other Stitch members to go on trips to help find their tribe. So you might not be the sort of person who likes looking at information about other people's trips. But the reason I'm sharing it is, as I said, a lot of people have been asking me, well, what was it like? Tell me where are you going to share the photos and stuff like that? So there you go. There are some photos. But beyond that, this is something that we're hoping that everyone can get to experience at some point. Now, obviously, not everyone can come traveling at the same time, and some trips aren't affordable and so on. But we really want to be able to create those opportunities, both for people just to getting together on smaller trips on the Stitch Travel page, but occasionally a really big event. And the one that we're doing at the end of this year, if you haven't seen it already, it's there on the Stitch homepage, the Big Stitch Trip 2025, where I'll be going with a larger group this time, and it won't be anywhere near as strenuous because we're going on a bus, and there's a guide, and I can just actually enjoy myself and really get to know everyone on the trip, but down the US Pacific Northwest. And this is a trip we're doing in conjunction with Trafalgar, and Trafalgar is pretty much the premier tour company for this sort of trip. Road trips in a bus, staying in really nice hotels, and giving us the opportunity to really get exposure to a part of the world that many of you may not have been to before. But even if you have, I'm convinced we're going to have a very different experience than anything you've experienced before, which is what I want to kind of share. So this is the pathway that we take from Seattle down through Portland, a place called North Bend, Eureka, all the way down to San Francisco. And Trafalgar's been running this trip for many years, and these are wonderful places to visit. We've got some really cool activities planned and so on. But beyond what Trafalgar does, the real magic for me is what we're doing as a community. So, for example, we arrive in Seattle, and we will be having an event in Seattle for the group, which that's pretty normal on these things. But not just the group, it's our local Stitch community in Seattle. So I'm working with them about setting up an event where people from Seattle and the surrounds will be able to come and have an event, and not just one event where we get together, but the local community is already starting to post activities on the day that we have to explore Seattle, where thus who are on the trip will be kind of like the local guest stars and be able to go and choose activities on Stitch that we'd like to go on. Whether it's some of the walking stuff that they do, there's get-togethers in small groups, all that sort of stuff. Like, how cool is it to go to a town where you can feel like you're being welcomed, like by members of your long-lost members of your family? That's how I feel like it's going to be. I haven't been to Seattle for many years, and I've only met a couple of the people a couple of Stitch members from Seattle in person. Luckily, one travelled to Sydney, and one travelled to another event that I went to once in the US. But by and large, these are all members I haven't met before. So I'm super excited. I'm super excited about this opportunity to see the community get together in all these different ways. Same thing in Portland. So we'll be having an event in Portland with members from Portland community. We're doing a bit of there's a bunch of activities as part of the trip. There's a wine tasting. Some of the members from Portland are going to be coming to the wine tasting with us, which is really cool. And even in I guess the coastal area of Oregon. I'm not really sure what the official name for this area is, but we've got a bunch of fantastic community champions and organisers a few hours south of, an hour or two south of Portland, and they're going to come and meet us at the Yaquina Bay Head Lighthouse on our journey. This is really, really cool. We end up at a place called North Bend, keep on going through some, obviously these famous parts of Northern California. We don't have a lot of community up that way, but the members who are in that area, I'm hoping that we'll find ways to get them along as well. And then finally, when we get to the Bay Area, which of course is a fantastic place to visit, lots of really interesting things to do. Even if you've been to San Francisco before, there is still plenty that you haven't discovered, I guarantee you. And the same thing, the local community in San Francisco is going to come out with open arms. We've got a gala event planned for both the Bay Area community and everyone on the trip. And of course, at the end of the trip, what may well happen, depending on who decides to come, we may end up having people who then go off and travel together, because that's what happened in Japan. Many of the people who came for the trip had travelled a few days beforehand, and some of them travelled for weeks afterwards. It was actually quite excruciating looking at them all have a lot of fun while I was back here doing work. But that would be fantastic. So you can see, hopefully, you can imagine. I don't see any faces of people on this slide here, but hopefully you can imagine what that's going to feel like. Not only do we all get to go on this incredible trip, which is pretty cool to start with, but we get to be guests of honor. Sounds a bit too highfalutin, but that's what it feels like when you're welcomed somewhere by people who really want to see you, be part of the community, and I think it's just going to be like a case of sharing the love. So the experience of the Japanese group, and how we were all so joyous and happy by the end, that's the vibe that I'm convinced we're going to get on the Big Stitch trip. I know some people have said they're a bit concerned about just what's happening in the world, and a lot of uncertainty and so on, and maybe they've thought about not coming to the US because of some of those things. In the news we hear about just tighter customs and immigration processes and stuff like that. I would really encourage you to remember, our members in the community remind me on a day-to-day basis that while the world is changing, our members haven't changed. The people in the community haven't changed. There is so much kindness and so much willingness to participate and be a part of something special as part of the community. I think it would be such a tragedy for us to allow our concerns about what might be happening in the world in a broader sense to impact our ability to connect with our members around the community, because we have so many wonderful people in the US. People actually haven't changed that much. They're still just as kind as they ever have been. And here's a great example for us to highlight exactly what that is like. As I said, it will be probably the last time in several years before we do another Big Stitch trip in the US. The next one will probably be somewhere like Europe or something like that. So really think about coming along. I would love to I had such a great time on this trip. I really would like to share that same experience with you. I think in this case, it will be even more fun for me in the sense that I won't have to be the guide. I'll just be a passenger, just like everybody else. But in a way, I enjoy the guiding too. So all these things are great fun. So please have a think about it. We will be locking in the numbers pretty soon. So while you'll hopefully be able to book spaces even beyond this point, but at the end of May, we'll be locking in our places with all our hotel bookings, all that sort of stuff, getting our numbers sorted. So if you're on the fence, and I know a number of people have said to me, gee, I'm on the fence. I'm like, what are you waiting for? Get in there. You've got to put your name down, pay your deposit, so you've got a guaranteed spot on the trip. Otherwise, it is entirely possible you will miss out, and I would be really, really sad to hear someone tell me that they were planning on going, but they didn't get organised in time. So please Let us know if you've got any questions. You can always shoot me a message. But that's the general idea. If you click into the trip, you can look at the itinerary. Trafalgar's got a detailed itinerary as well. We haven't published all of the Stitch events yet because we're still working on the details for all of those things, but that's coming. And like everything on Stitch, if there's something that you'd like to see added, we'll just add it. That's really, really cool. So thanks for listening. Hope that was inspiring, and I hope that's got you really excited about maybe doing something. And I hope to see you on the big Stitch trip with me in September and October this year. Bye for now.